Hello and welcome to Quiz Class. I'm your host, Ellen, and today we have 100 questions for the boomers. Let's begin our first question. How old was Norwegian figure skater Sonja Henie when she competed in the first Winter Olympic Games in 1924? 11, 12, or 13? 11. Where in Europe were zippers first mass-produced in the early 1920s? France, the UK, or Germany? Germany. What weapon was banned after World War I due to its devastating effects? Hand grenades, mortars, or flamethrowers? Flamethrowers. Who, known as the Galloping Ghost, signed with the Chicago Bears in 1925, drawing attention to the NFL? Red Grange, Ernie Nevers, or Bronco Nagurski? Red Grange. What was the iron lung initially used to treat in the 1920s? Coal gas poisoning. Which magazine was not inspired by the New Yorker and started in 1926? The Philadelphian, the Chicagoan, or the Brooklynite? The Philadelphian. Who developed consumer makeup in the 1920s, expanding its popularity beyond Hollywood? Estee Lauder, Elizabeth Arden, or Eugenia Weston? Eugenia Weston. What prestigious cultural award included music for the first time in 1928? The Pulitzer Prize, the Academy Awards, or the Nobel Prize? The Pulitzer Prize. What festival grew in international popularity during the 1920s by celebrating Mozart's music? Bachfest Leipzig, the Salzburg Festival, or the Lucerne Festival? The Salzburg Festival. What enzyme discovered by Alexander Fleming before penicillin kills bacteria in human fluids? Lipase, lysozyme, or protease? Lysozyme. Who became the first American to win Wimbledon in 1920 and dominated men's tennis in the decade? Vincent Richards, Bill Tilden, or Don Budge? Bill Tilden. What system managed territories from the defeated Ottoman and German empires after World War I? The retribution system, the deference system, or the mandate system? The mandate system. What bread brand debuted in 1921 and introduced pre-sliced loaves in 1928? Wonder Bread, Nature's Own, or Sunbeam Bread? Wonder Bread. What ship, launched in 1922, became the world's first diesel-powered vessel? MS Zealandia, MS Veland, or MS Zealandia? MS-Landia. What invention from 1927 became the foundation for modern electronics? The quartz crystal oscillator, the jade oscillator, or the copper oscillator? The quartz crystal oscillator. What musical work did George Gershwin premiere in 1924, blending classical and jazz styles? Rhapsody in Blue, Sound of White, or Uplift at Yellow? Rhapsody in Blue. What airline completed the first scheduled international flight from Key West to Havana in 1927? Pan American Airways, United Airlines, or Spirit Airlines? Pan American Airways. What inexpensive pastime became a family favorite during the early 1930s with cardboard versions? Playing cards, darts, or jigsaw puzzles? Jigsaw puzzles. What term, meaning utopia, was coined by James Hilton in his 1933 novel Lost Horizon? Oasis, Shangri-La, or Eden? Shangri-La. Where was the innovative 1930s furniture designer and architect Eero Saarinen from? Finland, the Netherlands, or Estonia? Finland. What Campbell's soup, introduced in 1934, later became a key ingredient in casseroles? Cream of mushroom soup, cream of corn soup, or tomato soup? Cream of mushroom soup. What airline did William Boeing establish in 1931 to consolidate air travel services? Delta Airlines, Southwest Airlines, or United Airlines? United Airlines. What Depression-era murals chronicling U.S. life were completed by Thomas Hart Benton in 1931? America Now, America Today, or America Together? America Today. What Finnish architect introduced human-centered modernism with the Paimio Sanatorium in 1933? Arne Jacobsen, Alvar Aalto, or Goran Schilt? Alvar Aalto. What candy combining a Tootsie Roll and a lollipop debuted in 1931? The Tootsie Pop, the Tootsie Lolly, or the Tootsie Rolly? The Tootsie Pop. What currency was stabilized in the 1930s, making Switzerland a haven for international investors? The Swiss franc, French franc, or Luxembourgian franc? The Swiss franc. What fashionable two-toned shoe, popular with men and women, gained popularity in the 1930s? The spectator shoe, the player shoe, or the commentator shoe? The spectator shoe. What American beverage debuted at the 1933 Chicago World's Fair and became a cultural icon? Pepsi-Cola, Dr. Pepper, or Coca-Cola? Coca-Cola. What international conference in 1933 failed to stabilize global trade during the Depression? The London Economic Conference, the Paris Economic Conference, or the Amsterdam Economic Conference? The London Economic Conference. What children's book series began in 1932, capturing the spirit of American frontier life? Anne of Green Gables, Little Women, or Little House on the Prairie? Little House on the Prairie. What company thrived in the 1930s with affordable door-to-door sales of household products? The Fuller Brush Company, the Tupperware Company, or the Electrolux Company? The Fuller Brush Company. What food innovation introduced by Nestle in the 1930s allowed easier chocolate production? White chocolate, chocolate milk, or powdered milk chocolate? Powdered milk chocolate. What female photojournalist became the first woman to work for Life magazine in 1936? Diane Arbus, Dorothea Lange, or Margaret Bourke-White? Margaret Bourke-White. What poet faced backlash in the 1930s for controversial themes in his cantos? Ezra Pound, E. E. Cummings, or William Carlos Williams? Ezra Pound. What 1937 labor strike led to workplace reforms in the U.S. automotive industry? The Flint sit-down strike, the Flint stand-up strike, or the Flint walk-off strike? The Flint sit-down strike. What children's book about an elephant was translated into English in the 1930s? The Story of Babar, The Little Prince, or Horton Hears a Who? The Story of Babar. What jewelry trend of the 1940s featured women collecting charms to represent personal stories? Stacking rings, charm bracelets, or dog tag necklaces? Charm bracelets. Which game grew in popularity with Soviet influence after World War II? Poker, chess, or knuckles? Chess. What 1940s broadcast show brought Hollywood films to radio, featuring big-name stars like Judy Garland and Clark Gable performing live? The Sox Radio Theater, the Lux Radio Theater, or the Max Radio Theater? The Lux Radio Theater. What now classic children's book was written by Margaret Wise Brown in 1947? My World, The Runaway Bunny, or Goodnight Moon? Goodnight Moon. Where was the treaty between Thailand and Japan ratified in 1940? Kuala Lumpur, Bangkok, or Tokyo? Bangkok. What did Britons feed pets due to World War II rationing? Scraps, eggs, or potatoes? Scraps. What organization, founded in 1943, assisted millions of World War II refugees? UNRRA, the Red Cross, or Amnesty? UNRRA. What was the first nuclear reactor to achieve a self-sustaining nuclear reaction in 1942? Chicago Pile 1, Boston Pile 1, or DC Pile 1? Chicago Pile 1. What passenger car did Toyota introduce as its first post-war model in 1947? The Model RA, the Model SA, or the Model TA? The Model SA. What astronomical discovery in 1948 expanded knowledge of the outer solar system? Pluto's atmosphere, Pluto's orbit, or Pluto's moons? Pluto's atmosphere. What Antarctic research station opened in 1949 advanced polar science? The Mavheim Base, Maudheim Base, or Mabelheim Base? The Maudheim Base. What institution did Albert Einstein join full-time in the early 1940s? Princeton, Yale, or Stanford? Princeton's Institute for Advanced Study. Who became the first who became the first African-American military pilot in 1942, breaking racial barriers? The Tuskegee Airmen, the Tuskegee Air Service, or the Tuskegee Squadron? The Tuskegee Airmen. What highway opened in 1940 became America's first superhighway? The Virginia Turnpike, the Montana Turnpike, or the Pennsylvania Turnpike? The Pennsylvania Turnpike. What men's hat became a Hollywood trend in the 1940s, popularized by movie stars? The fedora, trilby, or tiller? The fedora. What 1940s radio show became beloved for its slapstick humor and running gags? Fibber, McGee and Dolly, Fibber, McGee and Molly, or Fibber, McGee and Polly? Fibber, McGee and Molly. What cinematic format, introduced with The Robe in 1953, transformed movies with widescreen visuals? Technicolor, IMAX, or CinemaScope? CinemaScope. What anti-communist hunts did Senator Joseph McCarthy lead in the early 1950s? Traitor hunts, Bolshevik hunts, or witch hunts? Witch hunts. What tool, improved in the 1950s, became essential for mechanics and woodworkers? The B-clamp, the C-clamp, or the D-clamp? The C-clamp. What poetry collection did Sylvia Plath publish in 1959, exploring identity and mental health? The Colossus, the Prometheus, or the Magnum Opus? The Colossus. What Balmain 1953 leather cipher fragrance epitomized sophisticated chic? Jolie Madame, Chérie Madame, or Magnifique Madame? Jolie Madame. What NASA innovation in the late 1950s laid the foundation for robotic and automated controls? Auto mechanisms, primo mechanisms, or servo mechanisms? Servo mechanisms. When NASA's Project Mercury ended in May 1963, how many people had the US and USSR each sent into space? 6, 12, or 18? 6. What type of cancer was linked to 1950s medical research into smoking risks? Mouth, lung, or brain? Lung. What type of hat expanded beyond the West in the 1950s, becoming a mainstream fashion item? Stetson, Ashanka, or a Kubra? Stetson. What major retailer launched Allstate Insurance in 1952, becoming a pioneer in offering insurance services? Macy's, Sears, or Bloomingdale's? Sears. What 1954 William Golding novel became a classic and gained popularity in paperback format? The Coral Island, Lord of the Flies, or Strangers from Within? Lord of the Flies. What candy became popular in the 1950s, especially when frozen? Bit of Honey, 100 Grand Bar, or the Charleston Chew? The Charleston Chew. What 1952 court case limited presidential power in labor disputes during national emergencies? Youngstown Sheet and Tube Company versus Sawyer. Which Revlon anti-aging product was introduced in 1961, becoming the first mass-market cream of its kind? Fortuna 27, Eterna 27, or Ultima 27? Eterna 27. What 1962 legislation gave the U.S. president authority to negotiate tariff reductions? The Trade Negotiation Act, the Trade Expansion Act, or the Trade Reduction Act? The Trade Expansion Act. What invention by James Lovelock in 1961 transformed environmental testing? The electron capture detector, the centrifuge, or the ultrasonography machine? The electron capture detector. What record label, founded in 1959, became a musical powerhouse in the 1960s with legendary artists? Motown, A&M, or Elektra? Motown Records. What massive bombing campaign began in Vietnam in 1965? Operation Rolling Thunder, Operation White Lightning, or Operation Hailstorm? Operation Rolling Thunder. What major sea began shrinking in the 1960s due to Soviet irrigation projects? Aral Sea, Black Sea, or Caspian Sea? The Aral Sea. What racing trend became a popular hobby in the mid-1960s with dedicated tracks? Go-karting, balloon cars, or slot car racing? Slot car racing. What was the Domino's pizza chain originally called when it opened in 1960? Dominic's, Domininos, or Dominobs? Dominic's. What UNICEF fundraising campaign, popular in the 1960s, raised money for children's welfare during Halloween? Trick or Treat for UNICEF, Costumes for UNICEF, or Halloween for UNICEF? Trick or Treat for UNICEF. What skincare product introduced by Noxzema in 1966 offered a new way to cleanse the skin? Roaccutane, benzoyl peroxide, or medicated wipes? Medicated wipes. What actress won her first Academy Award for Best Actress in 1979 for her role in Norma Ray? Meryl Streep, Sally Field, or Susan Sarandon? Sally Field. Which country's Civil War conflict didn't end in 1975? Thailand, Laos, or Cambodia? Thailand. What wellness practice became popular in the West during the 1970s as part of a broader movement? Pilates, yoga, or calisthenics? Yoga. How much did the first Pulsar digital watch, requiring users to press a button to see the time, sell for in 1972? $21, $210, or $2,100? $2,100. What correction fluid invented in the 1970s became a typist's essential tool? Liquid paper, liquid nails, or liquid white? Liquid paper. What door-to-door sales representatives brought beauty products directly to homes in the 1970s? Revlon ladies, Avon ladies, or L'Oreal ladies? Avon ladies. What ulcer treatment drug, released in 1977, became one of the first billion-dollar pharmaceuticals? Tagamet, Nexium, or omeprazole? Tagamet. What Arizona judge, confirmed in the late 1970s, paved the way for a 1981 Supreme Court appointment? Sonia Sotomayor, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or Sandra Day O'Connor? Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Which television sitcom launched as a spin-off of All in the Family in 1975? The Johnsons, the Jacksons, or the Jeffersons? The Jeffersons. Which group of nations boycotted the 1976 Montreal Olympics? African, Soviet, or Oceania? African. How many acres of land were transferred to Native corporations in the 1971 Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act? Over 44 million, over 66 million, or over 88 million? Over 44 million. What Doritos corn chip flavor introduced in 1972 became an instant favorite? Nacho cheese, Cool Ranch, or Flamin' Hot? Nacho cheese. What breathable fabric trend in the 1980s reflected the fitness and sports fashion craze? Mesh, shine, or looseness? Mesh. What basketball player became a cultural phenomenon after winning his first MVP award in 1988? Michael Jordan, Dikembe Mutombo, or Magic Johnson? Michael Jordan. What 1984 conference brought together technology, entertainment, and design for the first time? Apple, TED, or RSA? TED. What stable noble gas compound, synthesized in 1989, was a major chemistry breakthrough? Xenon hexafluoroplatinate. Which Elizabeth Taylor celebrity perfume, released in 1987, became one of the first of its kind? Seduction, passion, or attraction? Passion. What tabletop game gained mainstream popularity in the 1980s, sparking a role-playing culture? Dungeons and Dragons, Catan, or Battlestar Galactica, the board game? Dungeons and Dragons. What photography innovation debuted in the mid-80s, making picture-taking more accessible? Digital cameras, phone cameras, or disposable cameras? Disposable cameras. What was MTV's full 1981 launch tagline? Ladies and gentlemen, here we go, rock and roll, or music television? Rock and roll. What did the Macintosh computer, introduced in 1984, showcase? The first color interface, first keyboard and mouse combination, or first mouse-driven interface? The first mouse-driven interface. What 1984 Sharon Olds poetry collection gained acclaim for exploring family life and mortality? The Dead and the Living, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, or Auld Lang Syne? The Dead and the Living. Which television sitcom became one of the most beloved shows despite low initial ratings in 1982, ending with 80 million viewers in 1993? Taxi, Cheers, or Seinfeld? Cheers. What military operation bombed Libya in 1986 in response to terrorism? Operation El Dorado Canyon, El Monte Abyss, or El Paso Summit? Operation El Dorado Canyon. What women's workout shoe, launched in 1982 by Reebok, targeted the aerobics market? Freestyle shoes, easygoing shoes, or highway shoes? freestyle shoes? And for our bonus question, which 1985 John Hughes movie introduced the breakfast what? Let us know the answer in the comments. Thanks for playing this quiz. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.